So following the trade deadline, there is only about 20 games left until the end of the regular season, and the playoff race in the Eastern Conference is very tight. You got 7, arguably 8 teams that are in the mix to potentially make the playoffs, so it's going to be a really tight race until the end of the season. And the team that I want to talk about, which I talked about earlier in the season, they usually start off their past couple of seasons in a hole, or basically a slump that they kind of get stuck in, and then they play well towards the end, and this team has played well enough to be in the playoff race, and that's the Ottawa Senators. This team currently stands at a 33-27-4 record for 68 points in 63 games played. They have scored 109 goals and have led in 198, and they are 6-3-1 in their last 10. I did some digging back to my DJ Smith video back in, I think, November, I believe, and it shows that in 15 games, they were 5-9-1, and before that, in 2021-22, they were 4-10-1, and then a season before that, they were 2-12-1. Obviously, that hole will kill you in the Eastern Conference with the intense playoff race. However, the Sens have fought their way back into the race, and they could very well make it. However, when you look at the wildcard race as of now, March 8th, 2023, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to get into it. It's definitely possible, but it's still going to be very difficult. You start off with the Islanders holding that first wildcard spot with 66 games played and 74 points. That's the team with the most amount of games out of all these wildcard teams. Then you have Pittsburgh in second with 63 games played. They have 73 points. And then you have the other teams on the outside looking in. You got the Florida Panthers, who in 65 games played have 70 points. And then these next 4 teams have 2 games in hand on that Panthers team. One of those teams being the Ottawa Senators, of course, with 63 games played, 68 points. Buffalo, same stats, 63 games, 68 points. Washington, same stats, 63 games, 68 points. And then Detroit, same stats, 63 games, 65 points. Now, if we're being realistic, the Red Wings have kind of had a huge setback, so they're likely going to miss the playoffs yet again. Washington, they sold at the deadline, but they're still all right. So really, I guess they are in the race, but if they fall off towards the end of the season, really wouldn't surprise me. So that really only leaves Buffalo and Florida that the Senators have to battle with, and obviously the Penguins and the Islanders too for those wildcard spots. The Senators have one of the most difficult schedules in the league coming up. The Panthers have one of the most easiest schedules coming up, and then as well as that too, Buffalo is kind of middle of the road. I haven't really looked at their schedule, to be honest with you. Realistically, I really can see Ottawa making it. There is a pretty solid chance with the team that this team has, really, they can make it. It's going to be a bit difficult, though, especially when you're playing a lot of playoff teams through these final 20 games or so. Now, speaking of having a good team, let's take a look at some of the players that are on their roster as of right now, starting off with Tim Stützle, who is obviously having an amazing season under his new contract. Actually, he's not even under his new contract. He's still under his entry-level deal. His new contract comes in next season. Anyway, Stu has 31 goals, 35 assists for 66 points in 59 games played. So Stützle has definitely taken a big step up for this Ottawa Senators team, and he is definitely worth that money at this point. Next up, then, you have Brady Tkachuk, a more physical player. However, he's still putting up a lot of points as the captain for the Ottawa Senators with 26 goals, 40 assists for 66 points in 63 games played. Next up, then, you have Claude Giroux, who, as a Flyers fan, I miss. Even though he's coming to a new team, I would say Giroux's role is definitely kind of lowered a little bit, obviously because he's not a captain anymore, so it kind of brings a little bit of pressure off of him, and it's kind of showed this season. He has 26 goals, 37 assists for 63 points in 63 games played, so he is just at the point-per-game pace there. And notice how a team that is below the playoff race has 3 players that are above a point per game. That really does go to show how stacked the Eastern Conference is 100%. Next up, then, you have Alex DeBrincat, who honestly has kind of struggled a little bit this season with the Senators. When you look at his stats, he really hasn't been all too bad. However, his goal scoring has definitely been reduced a little bit, and that makes sense being on a new team like the Ottawa Senators. DeBrincat has 20 goals, 34 assists for 54 points in 63 games played. Obviously, he's still a good player. He's still playing pretty well. However, his goal scoring is kind of reduced. boost, and that kind of goes to show in Ottawa's scoring this season, really. And then the last player that I have here is Drake Batherson for the forward core. He's obviously been an underrated player for the Senators this season, with 19 goals, 32 assists for 51 points in 63 games played. Batherson, obviously a very underrated player for the Senators. And I'd also like to point out that key center, in fact, Josh Norris, has been out basically the entire season, so that definitely plays a role in why the Senators aren't scoring as much and why they may be out of the playoff race. Well, not out of the playoff race, but out of a wild card spot. You move on to that D core up next. Obviously, it took on a pretty big defender in Jakob Chychrun, an absolute fleece of a trade. Still mad about that as a Coyotes fan. I know I just confused y'all with Flyers and Coyotes. Those are my two teams. Chychrun this season has 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points with the Ottawa Senators in 3 games played. So obviously he's already put up some pretty solid offense. I would imagine that would carry into the last couple of games and into next season as well 100%, because Chychrun is one of those amazing top 20 defenders. You as well as that too have Thomas Chabot, who obviously takes on a ton of ice time every single game. I feel like I say that every single Senators video. But anyways, Chabot this season has 9 goals, 26 assists for 35 points in 58 games played. Obviously, he's missed a couple of games, but playing all those minutes is definitely going to take a toll on you. And then the last defenseman I want to talk about is Jake Sanderson, but a big shout out to Artem Zub as well. But Sanderson, as a rookie this season, has 4 goals, 20 assists for 24 points in 58 games played, has been a very underrated defender for the Ottawa Senators this season, and could definitely make a good case for the Calder Trophy. Now looking at something that has kind of been heavily criticized for pretty much the entire season, and many different players have swapped to the rotation, the goaltending. You start off with the goalie who has played the most games. You got Cam Talbot here with a 15-14-1 record with a 2.85 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. Talbot's been pretty solid this season for the Senators, I guess, but he's probably not going to stay because he's also hurt right now as well. Which means the goaltending has kind of been swapped between 3 different tendies. You have Anton Forsberg, who's been subpar this season. You got Kevin Mandolese, who's played okay in some of the games that he's played in. And then Sogard as well, who Senators fans say is probably the next goalie for the Ottawa Senators 100%. So we'll see what happens there, but honestly, if they can really get that sorted out by next season, this team is for sure a playoff team, and I'm pretty confident in saying that. But anyways, next season really shouldn't matter right now. What should matter is, are they going to make the playoffs? And my prediction, honestly, is going to be no. Senators fans might disagree with me, and honestly, I actually do hope this team does make the playoffs, but I just don't think they will make it, honestly. There is too many teams in the race right now. Buffalo seems too electric with their goal scoring, and even though they have games in hand with the Panthers have an incredibly easy schedule, and as well as that too, you're going to need to win a lot of games to pass teams like Pittsburgh and New York, and you're going to need to pray that Pittsburgh and New York lose a lot of the games that they play to. It's a lot of betting, but honestly, I kind of think that the wild cards will kind of stay the same as they are right now. I think the Islanders and the Penguins will make the playoffs. I'm just kind of wondering whether or not maybe the Panthers could sneak in there, though. But nonetheless, for the Senators, this was definitely a step in the right direction. Hopefully next season, if they don't get into that hole that they've been in previous seasons, I think they can for sure make a run at the playoffs, 100%. But anyways, if you guys think that the Senators will make the playoffs, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And check out some other Ottawa Senators videos in this tab right here. Thank you all very much for watching. For all of your support as of late, I really do appreciate it. Please make sure to go subscribe down below if you are new. I definitely appreciate it. Senators fans, again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.